All right, we're back here. I start every podcast with the exact same thing. I was doing some editing, some reviewing, and it's like, all right. All right is my starter word. I got to figure out something cool and fun, and maybe like a catchphrase or something. But right now, it's all right because we're back right here on the Gill Connections podcast. Thank you again so much for pressing play today to listen to this amazing person's story, his journey, and I can't wait to pop into it. I'm of course your host, Mike Cunningham, Gill Athletics. What am I? The National Biz Dev Manager or something like that. But I'm the podcast guy, or I'm the Twitter guy. That's probably how you better know me. And I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited to continue. We're staring in the face of season 7 coming up here in 2026, and just so proud of the men and women who have been on the show up to this point, and really pumped to share with you the next. We've done 300. I can't wait for the next 300. It's just an amazing run we've got going on here, and I'm pumped for it and pumped for our guest. Speaking of that, let's get on to today's guest. You've already seen the title. You know who it is. Help me welcome from the University of Buffalo, or is it University at Buffalo? We're going to have to ask him here in a second. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Jhad Jones. What's up, Coach?
Not much, man. It's the University at
It
Buffalo.
is at Buffalo.
Yeah,
I
I,
knew
I made that
this.
mistake when I first got here. In my email signature, I used to have of when I first got here until I realized it was at.
I so one of my second to last place I coached at was at Ball State, and Buffalo was in our conference. So that's how I
Yeah.
kind of remembered at Buffalo. Do you know the origin? Like, why is it at Buffalo instead of Buffalo?
It's because we are part of the SUNY schools at the State University of New York at Buffalo,
Oh,
and
is
then
that
there's
right?
yeah, and then the State University, and there's also Buffalo State as well. That's part of the
Yeah.
SUNY program, so that's why it's at Buffalo to kind of differentiate.
When you talk about the SUNY site, that makes sense because there's at Binghamton and I can't think of others, but there's several others. So Buffalo is part of that SUNY system.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yeah, like we're seen as we are the flagship institution in the SUNY program.
Of course you do. I'm sure Binghamton does too, and the others. But okay, we'll go with it for this one. I get it. I get it. That makes sense. Not University of Buffalo, because that would be if you're your own. If you're not part of the SUNY system, if you're your own
Yeah.
institution, that makes sense. So you put of in your signature. Is that kind of like not putting the in front of Ohio State? Like they came down on you, like, whoa, whoa, 2 letters
Yeah.
makes a big difference here.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, yeah, we're not of Buffalo. We're at Buffalo. I was like, okay, my bad. I didn't know. I'm a West Coast kid.
When you hear it like that, it's a little bit like, isn't that silly? Come on, boys and girls, let's just move on. But I do get when you explain it like that with SUNY University at Buffalo versus University of Buffalo, absolutely does make complete sense. Yeah,
Yes, it
but
does.
but I don't think I'd smack anybody's hand because you called me University of Buffalo. Just call me. That's all I care, right? Just call me.
Right?
People at shows will call me Gill instead of my. They don't know my name, so they'll say, "Hey, Gill," and I'm like, "Man, I don't care if you don't know my name. Just call me. That's
Yeah.
that's what I care about. I appreciate that."
You'd be surprised how many emails I get from people thinking that they're emailing Buffalo State.
Is that right? Now,
Yes.
good friend of mine. In fact, thinking of talking about the MAC conference, I met him when he was the coach at Miami of Ohio, and I was at Ball State University. Just retired as the head coach, retired from coaching from Buffalo State. So,
Oh, Boswick.
yeah, Chris, absolutely, man, love him to death. Really? So people will email you thinking you're Buffalo State. Is that right? I mean, that's
Yes, it's weird. And like I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but like sometimes when I'm out recruiting, they would think, "Oh, are you the D3 school?" I was like, "No, we're the
that's what I'm
D1."
saying. They're so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I That makes me wonder how many kids email my good friend Richie Bean at Alabama State thinking they're emailing Dan at Alabama. Like I feel like none, but
Yeah.
with your example, I feel like there is some.
Yeah, there probably is. But like it's yeah, so people can't differentiate between us and Buffalo State. So they mix us up if being the D1 school or the D3 school.
Do you think this is funny to me now? Do you think people email Matt Cain at Florida State and call him Mouse because they think they're I bet you some 17. Okay, we're talking about kids here. I have a lot of grace for kids, even with today's day and age where they have everything on their phones. I still have a lot of grace for them. I bet you someone does. I bet you someone emails Mouse and says, "Hey, go Seminoles," and
Oh
thinks they're
yeah,
saying the right thing.
I'm sure it happens. I'm sure it happens.
Oh Lord. All right, that's awesome, man. Well, that's a great in the business, in the podcast business, Jihad, they called this the cold open before we actually get into the meat. So that was a great cold open. Let's hop right into the meat, man. I'm so glad you're here. I appreciate you being here. You know, if Jihad sounds familiar, if you're like a hardcore Gill podcast listener, he was actually on one of our segments for the live show that we do at USTF CCCA. And so he got a small taste of what it's like to be grilled here for the next hour plus, and he came back. So we, must not have been too bad in that little 5 minute section there.
Yeah.
And which one was it? Were we in Denver or?
Yeah, we were in Denver and I was at a different school then.
Oh, is that right? Well, no spoilers. Okay, that's funny. For some reason, I just think of you as Buffalo, but I know there's other schools. Okay, well, let's get into it then, man. Jihad, assuming, and we know assuming is not a good thing, but assuming you were a track athlete, and we certainly have learned, this is probably episode 340-ish here with you here with Jihad, that not every great track coach was an athlete, but assuming you were an athlete, where does track and field even start for you?
Oh man. Track and field started for me in high school. And it's a funny story because I started out at the high school I went to at Birmingham High School in Southern California. I played football in the fall. And during when football season was done, they sent all the skill players to track.
Oh,
And I never ran track before. With my ignorance of being 14 years old, 15 years old, I thought track was only something that happened in the Olympics every 4 years.
oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, so like when I started high school in '98, and they were like, "Oh, go run track." I'm like, "It's not an Olympic year. Why am I going to run track?"
Wait, but that's interesting. But you knew enough about track, and at least as it relates to Olympics, that you knew it was an Olympic year. Like that wasn't lost. You're like, oh yeah, we just did it 2 years ago, so in two
Yeah,
more years we'll do it. Okay, that's
yeah.
interesting.
So I thought it was something you only did in Olympic years. I was like, "That's it's not a thing." Just saying that. But yeah, no, I was so foolish back then.
Wow. Well, wait, wait. So you thought? Hold on, John. So not only did you think, like, obviously at the whatever level you thought the Olympics were, right? Because we don't necessarily know what pro and like, when you don't know the sport or something,
Yeah,
right? But of at least like, oh, the people I saw, you said you started in 98, so 96 when we saw Michael Johnson and all those guys, Dan O'Brien, you thought, okay, they don't compete again until 2000. But, and and I can kind of believe that because that's the big TV show. That's when most people get experience watching the track. But you also thought, even my local high school that I'm going to go to in a couple of years, you only got one shot in your 4 year career to do track.
yes, yes. That's how I thought it because I didn't know anything about the sport other than that it was done at the Olympics.
This is why I give a lot of grace to young people. So now I guarantee you someone has emailed Mouse and called him Matt Cain. USC, UCLA, you guys must get it all mixed up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
yeah, I
Wow.
know.
Okay. Well, first of all, let's take a step back to something important you said. I love that your football coach or coaches made the guys go do track. Like there's a big divide, right? There's like this, why aren't football players doing track? It's very complimentary, which I agree with.
Yeah.
But that infers that there's a lot of coaches who don't, et cetera. But yours, that was part of their culture. It sounds like, yeah, you're gonna go run track.
Yeah, it was definitely part of the culture. When you look at the school's record board, most of the sprint, hurdles, jumps records, and even some of the throws records were all done by football players
Mhm.
and basketball players. So it was like, so it was kind of a thing to be a multi-sport athlete at that school. So that's all I knew through high school was playing multiple sports. 'Cause I thought that was normal.
Yeah, well, it should be. That's right. So, what was your experience like? You get to this, first of all, your mind's blown that we do this every year. But what was it like joining track and field?
I was so different
Mhm.
because I grew up playing ball sports, playing soccer, basketball, baseball. I didn't start football till I got to high school. And I just got thrown to hurdles. They were like, "Oh,
Mm.
you're a hurdler. Go try that." And I was like, "How did you know? I never done this before." So for my coach, Coach Scher, who passed a while ago, he would always try to get me to do things with hurdles, and I would come to practice every day and stand around and not do anything because I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. What if I fall? What if I get hurt? And also like being 14, you think you're too cool to do things that will make you look foolish. So like, and then the one thing that he told me that kind of got me to try was like, he was like, "What's the worst thing that could happen to you? You succeed?" And I was like,
Wow.
"I guess." And then so I just tried it for one day in practice. Didn't go bad. Kept on doing it, and then the next thing you know, I was actually a respectable hurdler.
What, so that's interesting. What do you think, we have hindsight now, so you can kind of look back at it. What do you think he saw in you as a hurdler, and you hadn't even done any, like you didn't show any, heck, you thought hurdles were once every 4 years for crying out loud.
Yeah,
What do you think he saw in you?
I don't know. I have no idea what coach saw in me. Like I, this thing maybe was just the fact that I just kept standing off to the side, and he just wanted to at least have me attempt. So he'd rather fail than say you never tried.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe, yeah, that's actually a really good point. Maybe he didn't necessarily see you as a hurdler, but as someone that I need to make sure that I want to push a little bit. Like, okay, try it, and if you fail, cool, we'll go back, we'll go over to sprints or jumps or whatnot.
Yeah,
Maybe that was it. I truly believe the superpower of a coach is they see something in someone else before they can see it in themselves. So, he at least saw hurdling, or at least saw you responding to a challenge. That actually might be more of what it was in you before you could even see, oh yeah, this is the way I need to be motivated or poured into.
yeah, because I don't know, maybe I'm petty, but like when people challenge me, that's when I really want to actually like prove them wrong. When
Hmm.
most of probably I'm proving them right.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so I think it was just the challenge that kind of got me off the wall and into the lanes and actually trying hurdles.
So don't leave high school when I ask this question. Spoiler alert, we know you stay in track, not necessarily football. Why? So there had to be some kind of maybe transformation in track and field in your high school time.
Um, Up until my senior year, I did track to prepare for football,
Okay.
and I just kind of liked track, but I kind of had a little bit more of an affinity towards football at that point.
Mhm.
Then going into my senior year, my senior year didn't go that well. It went well enough, but not that well. And I thought we were going to win a championship with our high school team, and we didn't.
Mm,
So I was like, okay, I have one more shot at winning something, and track was it. So that year, I actually took track significantly more serious, and then I learned to love it
mm.
instead of just liking it. And coincidentally, like I went to college to play football. I got a football scholarship, and I walked onto the track team. And that coach, he's still there. I love him to death, even though I didn't stay at that school. Um, so it was more so me wanting to be successful at something since we didn't win in football, kind of pushed me towards loving track more.
Now, I was going to say it sounds like you were a football player who ran track, but that senior year track season maybe a change, but maybe not. Would you have called yourself, looking at your totality of your high school career, a football player who ran track?
Yes. And then the senior year kind of flipped that to where I started to love track more.
Yeah. Okay. That started maybe a transformation there.
Yeah.
But it seemed like the way you said that, it seemed less about like, oh, I'm going to take track serious because maybe that's my sport, but and more of like chasing this championship. Like you were driven for some form of success.
Yes. 100%. It was more so I felt like I needed to win something before I left high school.
Hmm. So something you said that I want to double click into. I hear this. We hear this often, whether it's social media, in person, etc. You said so. Senior year football season didn't go as well as you wanted. You didn't win the championship. So I took track more serious. When you look at the first 3 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, compared to senior, where I took it more serious, what does that mean? Like, what changes did you make? How did you take it more serious?
I was more intentional with the things that I was doing in practice.
Okay.
Like a lot of the times my freshman, sophomore, and junior years, not that I wasn't somewhat successful, I felt like I was just doing well enough off of just talent. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing what I was told. My senior year, I kind of to study a little bit more. My Coach Share by that point, he had retired, but he was still coming around. He had a whole bunch of old VHS tapes of like different like hurdlers and drills. So I started to watch those in the track office. Like I don't think VHS even exists anymore. But so I started watching those videos, paying attention to how I was hurdling. My teammates were really good, so I got pressed every day in practice. So I had to actually work hard to kind of run with them because a lot of them were faster than me.
Mhm.
So it was kind of a perfect storm of training, a good training group, me taking more intentional and actually caring about what I was doing.
Do you ever look back again? We have this hindsight 2020 mechanism. Do you ever look back like, man, what if I would have done that my sophomore year?
All the time. I was like, wait, what if I actually cared? I probably
Mhm.
could have been better, but I guess things happened the way they were supposed to.
Yeah, I agree with that. The reason I asked that question is because I'm not a big believer in regret and things like that. Because when we think about it, like when I phrase that question like that, I could see you go. You've thought about this plenty of times. You're like, oh man, if I'd have started sophomore year, maybe I'd have run this time, junior year this time, senior. Heck, we can easily start telling our stories like, man, I could have made the Olympics if I'd have taken it serious, right?
Yeah,
But we forget the negative could also happen, right? It's kind of like this fork in the road, and we always want to think about the positive of if I would, of the regret side of like, oh, if I'd have started earlier. But there's a negative side that also 100% could have come true, right? You start taking it seriously your sophomore year, you stop doing football and go full blown into track, go through all 4 years of track in college, and you are burnt out. You're not happy with the sport, and you stop hurdling and you don't even become a track coach. That is absolutely something that could have happened if you would have taken
yeah,
it seriously your sophomore year. That is not an untold story, right?
yeah,
But we like to think of the positive, like, oh man, I would have been so amazing. I could have, I would have been an NCAA champion, Olympian, or whatever. And it's like,
yeah,
the opposite's true too, by the way,
yeah.
unfortunately.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I was that talented to be a NCAA or Olympic champ, but
Yeah, you should tell yourself that story though, because no one knows. It lives in fantasy land, so you should absolutely go to the highest. All right, if you just started taking this seriously in sophomore year, man, you'd have ran 12 flat, I bet, in the 110s.
yeah, right. You never know. Like,
We'll never know. That's why we could tell that story. Absolutely, yeah. I was a terrible, failed hurdler for sure, but half miler. My half mile PR gets better every time someone, some non-track person asks me. I'm like, oh yeah, I was like 145, I think. I can't remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't know. They'll never find out.
uh,
Okay. You mentioned coach kind of retires, but he's still coming around. What's your relationship to coach? And what I mean by that is, uh, are you looking at him like, maybe that's what I want to do for a living? Or is it more of like an end to the means of like, okay, he tells me to run, I go run. What was that relationship like?
my relationship with him was great. Like after my freshman year, like I started to pay attention more, and like he kind of poured into me more, and it was just kind of like because I think when he was coaching, he was already in his 70s, so like he couldn't
Oh,
really
wow.
I demonstrate for my athletes every now and then. He couldn't demonstrate it, but he can talk you through it
Hmm.
in a way that you can understand it. So since I have a really good imagination, I can visualize what he was telling me, and I
Hmm.
just whatever I see in my head, I just do on the track.
Right.
So the fact that he was able to explain very well made it easy for me to grasp it.
Yeah.
So like that kind of helped me with my coaching now because now I learned how to explain things.
Yeah.
But at that point, coaching wasn't really part of my plan at all.
Right. Right. That's making me think a little bit here, Jihad. Talking about a coach who's of age where they can't demonstrate. I'm willing to bet Coach Shearer earlier in his career as a 30, 40-year-old coach probably did do some demonstrations, but he had to learn at some point, Father Time is undefeated. At some point, he couldn't do the demonstrations and he had to learn how to coach a little different. It makes me think about coaches who are heavy demonstrators or heavy vocalists, more instructional with their coaching.
Yeah.
That, as you go into the longevity of coaching, you're going to have to adapt as a coach. Coach Shearer had certainly had to adapt.
Yeah, 100%. Because
That's
he was
interesting.
very good that he can paint a picture for you to see while he was
Mm.
talking to you.
That's
So
a
that's what
skill.
yeah. It's something I'm still learning how to do. Like I've
Hmm.
learned to do less demonstrations and talk my athletes through it more, but
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Yeah, I always wonder. I was just hanging out with Reese Merritt down in Texas, and he did a learn by doing for some coaches, and he's doing all the drills and stuff. And so I imagine him when he's coaching his kids, he's doing a lot of drills and stuff. And I was like, Reese at 50 is going to have to coach differently than
Yeah.
Reese today. And for someone who did it at such a high level, I was like, I wonder how he's going to be able to handle that. There's going to be an adjustment. We're continually we're trying to develop athletes. Well, as coaches, we have to remember we are, whether we want to or not, we are continually developing again because of our age and stage and throughout our career.
Yes, 100%.
I love that. Okay, so coaching is not in your head as far as what I'm going to become when I grow up at all at this stage. Talk to us about the transition senior year. You're looking at colleges. Where did you look at? Where'd you go? And what were you thinking about? Like as an 18-year-old, I'm going to become an accountant. I'm going to become a business owner. What were you thinking about becoming when you grow up?
Um, at that point at 18, I still thought I was going to be a football player.
Is that right?
I still thought I was going to be a football player because like I said, I went to school for football.
Yeah.
So I looked at a few different schools. Like I wanted, since like I said, I didn't have the greatest senior year, so I was like, I was looking to potentially try go to UNLV and walk on,
Hmm.
or to San Diego State or walk on. But schools at that level wasn't really looking at me.
Hmm.
And then there was a few schools that would contact me about track, but I was like, at that point, I wasn't really sold on just doing track. So I ended up going to an NAIA school. I went to Eastern Oregon.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
and I ran.
wow.
So I played football uh for Fenwick. He ended up passing. I don't remember how many years, and I was like, it was in the teens of the 2000s. He ended up passing. Uh, I played a season and a half before I left. But while I was there, Ben Welch, who's still there,
Yeah.
yeah, I still talk to him to this day. I love Ben. Like I ran my freshman year there
Wow.
as a red shirt because I redshirted because it was just tough doing both football and track at the same time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so when I left the school, like knowing what I know now, I would have just went to the track team and just stayed at the school. But
Right.
obviously, at 19 years old, you don't know how it works. I figured, well, if I'm not going to play football anymore, I guess I have to leave the school.
Right, right. Isn't that silly? But that's so true though, right? That's how we would think. Absolutely.
Yeah, so like, like I wouldn't say it was a regret, but like I kind of wish I would have stayed with Ben because I stayed in contact with him throughout the years. Obviously, now is what, 23 years later.
Yeah.
I still have a relationship with him, but kind of wish I would have stayed with him because I think when I got there was his first year at Eastern Oregon, so we kind of would have grew together.
Wow. Yeah, that'd have been fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where'd we go?
I bounced back. I went back home and I
Okay.
went to Moorpark College.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And then at that point I gave up football and I was like, you know what, full-time track.
Wow.
So I ran track at Moorpark College. My first year that was rough because I could not stay healthy. I've never had an injury all through high school. Then that year I ended up with all kinds of hamstring injuries and it kind of sucked.
Mm.
And then my second year there, I had a pretty decent year. Um, Finally healthy, so I got to compete a full season. Did okay. I barely missed out on making the 3C2A state championship
Hmm.
because California, we're not part of the NJ.
Right.
See, like we don't participate in JUCO nationals. We
Right.
have our own thing, which is kind of weird. I thought every state was like that, but apparently it's not.
Nope.
Uh, and so then when I left CSUN, not CSUN, when I left Moorpark, I transferred to CSUN.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and then in my transfer to CSUN, this is kind of when coaching became uh, a thought.
Okay, so let's
It
pause
wasn't.
there. Let's pause there. Love that. First of all, we just had Curtis Taylor from University of Oregon on the show, and who was a California junior college kid. So we had to explore because it is unique. California is a unique junior college system, many many ways. Not only it's just California, but the North South SoCal,
Yeah.
the recruiting aspect. There's a lot of differences. So I was appreciative of Curtis kind of giving us the lowdown on that. So you go to Eastern Oregon. And I love this is interesting to me. You still think you're going to be a football player.
Yeah.
Now, the absurdity of that, what I mean by that is, the opportunity for you to go on to the next level from college, first of all, no matter what school you go to, USC, Troy University, it doesn't matter. The chances you're going pro are
Minuscule.
minuscule. When you go to a non-power four school, whatever 1/10 of minuscule is, that's your opportunity. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
but it is in the same vein of like, well, why don't you just go buy a lottery ticket? Because that's about the roughly the same
Yeah. Essentially,
opportunity.
yes.
Right, right, right. So, but we being adults and coaches today in 2025, we will like judge a young person when they say, "Hey, I'm gonna not take your scholarship for track, and I'm gonna go walk on at such and such university," and we will be like, "Oh, what an opportunity this kid is
Yeah.
missing!" And it's like, but you did it, and it
Yeah,
turned out
exactly.
okay, by the way. But like, what are we? Come on, let's judge the decisions of 18-year-old kids a little less than we do today, knowing that we, in general, all made those exact same mistakes and turned out pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I love that just kind of the juxtaposition. Oh, that's a big word to today. So I love that. Appreciate your honesty there. Okay, but you go there. I'm going to be a football player. That doesn't work out. You go to Moorpark. At Moorpark, coaching is still not like, okay, I'm going to go become a track coach. So what are you thinking though? Because you dropped football. So I hope the idea of becoming a football player is
Oh yeah, that's dead.
oh, okay. Good. All right. Good. Good. Good.
Yeah, that's dead.
Whatever 1/10 of 1/10 is your opportunity at that point. So what are you thinking? What you go to Moorpark? You're doing your studies there. What are you thinking? I'm going to go major in or and become.
Um, I stuck with kinesiology
Okay.
because initially I was looking at I wanted to do physical therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Common. Mm-hmm.
so I thought that was going to be my path.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I left Moore Park and I went to CSUN, and I went there to go try and walk onto the track team, and it just really didn't work out that well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a friend that I had a class with that was coaching at a local high school, at Granada Hills High School, which is
Hmm.
like not very far away from that campus. And he was telling me about the kids he's working with and all kind of stuff. And so like that's when it kind of maybe sparked the idea of potentially coaching.
Yeah.
And because who was the coach at CSUN 10 was Coach Stram.
Okay.
So, but like I wasn't getting much attention, so I was kind of falling out of being an athlete because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I'm not used to getting this little bit of attention because as a walk-on, you don't most of the times you kind of get like the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just part of the game because obviously, when you get into coaching, you realize that you try to give everybody as much of your time, but obviously the athletes you're monetarily invested in get a little bit more of attention.
Right. Right. Right.
But so that's when I kind of started the transition out of being an athlete, and then I kind of took on coaching at another high school, kind of as a bet. So
Oh,
it was kind of pettiness, really, because my friend was coaching at school, and
we're finding that to be a little bit of a theme with you so far.
yeah,
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. Let me write
yeah,
that down. Petting.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Keep going.
yeah.
Keep going.
So,
What's this bet?
well, because he bet that he could be a better coach than me.
Is this the Granada Hills guy?
Yes, my friend I was working
So
Granada Hill.
he was working at Granada Hills and he was like, "Yeah, Jihad, you think you can be a coach, but man, I'm so much better than you." And you were like, "Hold the phone."
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, in my head, I was like, well, I took it as a challenge. I was like, okay, well, bet I'll do it. I'll start coaching. I coached at a different local high school, and by a couple years later, I was beating him. Like my team was ended up being a little bit better
Yeah.
than his. So like, and that's kind of how I got into coaching. Really, was just like off of pettiness.
We talked earlier about this kind of fork in the road, right? One decision versus the other. What could have happened if I would have taken the left instead of the right or whatever? One of the decisions you could have made there, your experience as being an athlete, kind of tails off, right? We try to, as coaches, we try to give kids an experience like when they get done with our program, man, that is as high as like they walk away feeling Like, man, thank God Jihad was my coach, right? Like that's kind
Yeah.
of what we strive for. And it seems a little bit your career was maybe more the opposite. It's like, oh, I go on to become a walk on. I'm not getting the attention I think I need or should need. It's kind of petering out here a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You could have and no, I don't think anybody would have blamed you. You could have had thoughts and feelings of like, you know what, this ain't my sport either, or you know what, maybe just sports just ain't for me. Maybe I'm supposed to be a guy who just watches sports. I'll go become a PT or whatever. You kind of almost dug in and said, okay, if I'm not going to be as successful as I think I could have, should have been as an athlete, well, then maybe this coaching thing, maybe that's where I'm supposed to go. Like we could have lost you easily
Oh yeah.
from coaching. You know what I'm saying? You could have turned bitter. That's probably the word. You could have turned bitter, and instead you didn't. Thank goodness.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and the mistake I made then when I got into coaching is that when I got into coaching, I also, when I left track, I left school.
You left. First of all, I always want to be careful with our listeners. You keep saying CSUN. He's talking about California State University of Northridge, of Northridge, not at Northridge, which is a very interesting school in my opinion because while it's not a air quotes here big name school, it's not a USC, UCLA, etc. But we have had some amazing coaches go through that program. Like there are people that you think, again, air quotes here, big time coaches who have coached at Northridge. Like they've gone through Northridge. So it's just kind of an interesting cultural part of our sport that there's a lot of people, a little bit like Cal Poly slow down in SoCal, that a lot of coaches go through that area. So
Yeah.
it's famous. So you left Northridge? How many,
Yeah.
wait a minute, how many schools did you go to? I thought this was a 2025 issue. What in the
No, no,
world?
no. The season was last school I went to. I left as in I dropped out.
Oh, wait a minute. You dropped out.
Yes, I
So you
dropped out
wait.
of
So you
school.
didn't get your degree.
At that point, no. I ended up going back and getting my
You
degree. Yes.
dropped out and said, okay, then I'll just go coach.
Yeah.
How? And what I mean by that is like, how do you live? Like money. Like, I'm
I
assuming
was,
that the high school job didn't say, sure, we'll pay you 50 grand to come coach track for us, right?
I did a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like I worked at Food for Less is it's a food store down Southern
Uh-huh.
California.
Uh-huh.
I worked at um one of my friends' family had a pool service business. I did that as well. So like because I did things that I can be done with my workday by like 2 p.m. to
Right.
make it to track practice by
So you,
3.
you hustled. That would be a
Yes.
definition of hustle. That's always interesting to me. I don't run a podcast that interviews accountants or business owners or whatnot, but I hesitate to think that any other profession would someone say, I really wanted to be a CPA. So I dropped out of school and started working for my friend's pool so that I could intern at the local accounting office. You know what I'm saying? Only coaching. And I feel like only track and field would do that. What did your friends, family, your network, what did they think about when you dropped out of college? Because that's a big deal,
Oh yeah.
especially maybe for a guy who, just face value here in the story for it's like, okay, he goes up to Oregon, leaves after a year, then he goes junior college, and there's no bigger fan of junior college than this guy, but I know the stigmatism of junior college. Okay,
Yeah.
you go to junior college, you succeeded, you got your AA there. Okay, he's back on track. Goes to Northridge. Now he's complaining he's not getting enough attention, and he drops out. Like there had to be a little bit of concern of like,
Yeah,
Jihad,
definitely.
what are we doing here?
Definitely. There was definitely concern, especially for my mom, because raised by mom had 3 boys. So like my older brother graduated. He went through it straight, went to law school.
Oh, whoa,
Yeah, I
whoa!
know.
There's a terrible comparison. Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So he set the bar high. And then there was me 2 years younger than him. I ended up leaving. Then my little brother is 6 years younger. So he was still in like middle school.
So mom is what's older brother's name?
Killane.
Kalaine?
Yeah.
First of all, damn it, Kalaine. Why you set the bar so high? So mom's looking at Kalaine going, wow, graduated undergrad, law school. She sees, I'm gonna call you struggling, even though
Yeah.
that's not tough, but in her mind, probably, right? Because she's also looking at what's younger brother's name?
Kyle.
She's looking at Kyle going, don't follow Jihad. Look what what I'm saying? She's worried about Kyle, like, oh man.
Yeah, 100%. Probably. She
Uh,
probably was wondering, who are you?
yeah.
So like
She's a good mom. She was worried about all three of you, even the lawyer who set the bar so high.
Yeah,
Because I know you're listening. You better be listening to your brother's podcast, by the way.
right.
Yeah. Oh, so even I'll say it even worse of like, oh man, you have this comparison in front of you, and here you are dropping out to become a track coach. What are you thinking? How did you, I don't want to say combat that, but how did you um, navigate those conversations? Mom can be tough.
Oh, it was tough having those conversations like, oh, why did I leave school and all, because like being first generation here in the US, like obviously the education part is always kind of pushed pretty heavily.
Yeah, from where?
Belize.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yep. So I mean, that's why you come traditionally. That's why you come here is to for my kids to have a better education, better opportunity. And here you are dropping out to become a track and field coach.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what kind of swayed my mom after a while is that she saw how much I loved doing it.
Mm,
So it became more so a passion. So like I started to love it. So I think that kind of softened it a little bit.
love that.
So, but yeah, but it was tough in the beginning, like having to, like you said, I had to hustle with all these different side jobs just so that I can have the time to coach. And so that the high school I went to, I ended up coaching at North Hollywood High School.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I started coaching there in 2006.
Okay.
So I was coaching both football and track there.
Oh, so football's not completely out of the picture here.
Yeah, like football is not completely out of the picture. We're just that I'm just on the other side of the
Yeah.
of the lines.
Yeah.
So, but like coaching football is fun, but I still at that point I still love track more.
How long did you do both football and track? I'm interested in this.
As a coach,
Yes, sir.
my first 9, 10 years of coaching.
So this is interesting because I'm full bore into the track and field coaching world, right? As a former track athlete, former track coach, and now obviously in what I do here at Gill. And I love football. I played high school football and was, for my level, I was decent. And love college football. Like Saturdays are a big deal in my house. Like that's almost like a holiday in our house. Like we celebrate college football, right? Since you did both for, let's just call it 10 years, let's just round the complete 10. Since you did both, can you give us your experience of the differences? And I don't mean, we know what an X's and O's looks like for track, and we can, if we didn't coach football, we at least understand what an X. We've all played NCAA live or whatever on Xbox, so we know X's and O's in plays. But I'm talking about like, can you talk to us about mentalities, like how you approached football practice versus how you approached track practice? I'm a big fan and believer in coaching education. What is the coaching education culture like for coaching football versus track? Can you understand where
Um,
I'm trying to get you here?
yeah, I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. The mentality was when I coached football, like I was much more aggressive in approach with how you deal with the athletes because it's an aggressive sport. You kind of have to kind of build a certain level of toughness. So, but when football season ended and you go into track, you almost have to shut that off and be a little bit softer, more I would say democratic and more I want to say teach more. You do teach a lot in football, but you
Mhm,
just have a different tone
mhm.
when you're talking to track athletes as opposed to talking to football players because it's two different types of preparation. So like I would say that was the biggest difference was learning how to turn off aggressive tone and be more passive
Now
track
you
athletes.
you did both. I did both in high school. I started my last couple. So I was like I said, I was decent enough. Wasn't great at track, but did track, and obviously it became my career, my life. Is what you just said true? Again, using our 2020, you're an adult now, right? You've seen a lot
Yeah.
of different things in this world. Uh, is what you said true because it's true, or it's the culture of what we think is supposed to be true. So because the kids didn't change, right? Like when you
No.
coached Johnny on the football field, that was the same Johnny that came to the track, different sport, and you've done the sport and you know how to do it at a high level, and you've coached people to do it at a high level. All the words that you use to describe football, I could have said track, and it would have been true. Track, you've got to be aggressive.
Yeah,
It's a passionate sport. You got to be, there's certainly different physicalities on the football side, right? I get hit in football or I deliver a hit where I'm not necessarily do that in track. But I just wonder how much of that stuff is really true or how much of that is just the culture because that's what was taught to us. When you were in
yeah,
football, I imagine you got yelled at more than when you went to track. And I'm not sure that you should have been yelled at in football.
yeah, true. Like you're not wrong there. Like I just think that the difference between coaching a single gender sport and a co-ed sport.
Oh, okay, great point. Didn't factor that in. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So, obviously, I'm not saying I wasn't tough on my young ladies
Yeah, yeah.
and young boys, but not as rough as you would be when it comes to coaching football, where you can kind of speak in a different tone. So
I agree with what you said. My question, my retort back to you would be, but did you have to be that tone in football?
I probably didn't have to be, but it was
Okay,
like I believe that it was the culture of the sport, especially
100%.
in the early 2000s. It was a lot different.
Yeah. See, I push back. See, I'm the host, Jhad, so I get to just push back on anything I want, right? First of all, and please hear me, not judging you
Yeah,
by any stretch of the imagination uh, at all. I do think it's the culture thing, right? Now, when you said the early 2000s, a guy like me goes, "Yeah, well, you should have played in the early 90s." And a kid today would say, "Yeah, but it's different in 2020s because of it's always hard.
yeah,
It's kind of I heard this saying one time we put the past on a pedestal and we demonize the future. So we talk about like when I grew up, it was the greatest time in the world. We didn't have video games or what, you did.
yeah,
You were just past I graduated high school in 94. You graduated 2002, I think, right?
yeah,
Roughly. Yeah. So we'll call it 10 years. But we talk about the past, like, oh, before we had cell phones and everything. And but we've demonized all through our whole life, throughout humankind. When newspapers first came out, they said that was going to ruin society, by the way. Like people
yeah,
learning how to learn and mass dissemination of information that was going to ruin the world. When radio came out, oh, that was the tool of the devil. We're going to have people
yeah,
that are just glued to the radio. They're not going to work. They're going to become lazy. TV came out, boom, same thing. We're going to be TV zombies. It's going to ruin. We're never going to work. It was back a lot of factory work back then. Factories are going to shut down, etc. Well, I guess maybe that did come true, but still, internet comes out. Obviously, you know about all the demons that the internet, social media. Oh my God, it's terrible. Everything has been terrible from day one. By the way, everything has been great since day one. Radio was amazing for us. Newspapers are amazing. TV is amazing. Internet's amazing. It's all in how you use the
yeah,
thing, right? So when you say, especially in the early 2000s, like, shut up. No, it was hard before that, and it was hard after, and all this kind
yeah.
of stuff. Anyway, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. What about coaching education between football and high school coaching? And in track, we have a very highly developed coaching education programs. I wonder in football, it may be less formal, like certifications, and maybe more just like, did you ever sit down with the offensive coordinator or whatever? Like, talk to us about the culture of coaching education about the two sports.
It's crazy because didn't really do much of the coaching education for football because a lot of this coaching education stuff happened during track season. They would have
Oh, right.
a football convention. I think it was in Vegas, and obviously, what happens when people go to Vegas and like not they do the coaching stuff, but there's a lot of other things that happen out there. But so
That's
I
right.
never really got to partake in that.
That's where I lived before I moved to Gill, by the way.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
didn't know
yes.
that.
Oh yeah, I was a professional poker player, so I know everything that happens in Vegas. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
did not know that. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so like when they would go to the football conventions for coaching conventions, I was in track season, so I never
Yeah.
got to partake in any of the education that it was being taught at those things. So I never got to experience that.
But did you, so when they came back, did you sit down with a coordinator or a fellow football coach and go, hey, so what'd you learn? What was that's where I talk about culture. Like
Yeah.
you didn't get to go. It makes complete sense because you're in track season. But it was the culture of like, okay, for all the guys that didn't get to go to the clinic, we're going to do our own little clinic and teach you what we got taught. Was it
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
that would definitely happen. They would
Okay.
do that like when I would get back after track season, before we get into summer, we kind of go over the things the new things they want to implement when it comes to form tackling, when it comes to blocking, and when it
Mhm.
comes to all kind of different things. So they would kind of fill me in on that information and
Yeah.
kind of just add those things to kind of change the way my approach is with my group of athletes that I was coaching.
Okay.
So I would say it's very similar with coaching
Yeah.
education, but I just didn't get to experience it firsthand. With track. I did.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you are you able to, as a football coach, to like have self-guided coaching education by watching football games? Like it's interesting you talked about like correct ways to tackle. And I forget that as a football coach, you have to teach those things. I forget about that. I think of football coaching as like 80% X's and O's, like where's my guard supposed to go, where's what route is my receiver and all that kind of stuff. Um, and so I think like, oh, if I watch an NFL game or a high level college game, if I'm watching, like I can watch schematics and I can kind of learn like, oh, I see what this coach did because the DB lined up here. He has his guys do X, Y, and Z. Is that
You
is
know,
that possible?
that's definitely possible. Like if you understand the game, you can definitely just watch how they're playing, what their alignment is, and you can kind of piece things together.
Yeah.
But
And,
it's
and even like schematically, right? Like, oh, I
yeah,
see why he blitzed on third down because it was third and whatever. Yeah. Where I'm getting at is because you can't do that in track, right? If I watch Noah Lyles run, I don't. It's very hard for me to go, oh, he put his hand right here. I can coach that. It's like
yeah.
I need to know what he actually did in training to actually affect
Yeah,
possibly
exactly.
my
It's a lot
kids.
different. Like you can pick up on things watching games in football that you can't pick up watching track meets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's cool. All right. So with coaching education, typically, not typically, I imagine 100% of us, when we first get into coaching, we coach like we were coached because that's all we know, right? So through your almost, call it a decade of high school coaching, how did you develop as a track coach? Were you doing any coaching education? And coaching education to me is formal and informal. Formal is what we were talking about, like certificates, USATF, USTF,
Yeah.
CCCA, et cetera. Informal is calling someone that I trust and hey, let's sit down and talk about sprints. How do you what are you doing here on speed days and blah 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 blah. That both of them are extremely valuable. What did you do through that decade of high school coaching to improve as a coach?
I would say I was 50% what I did as an athlete,
Mm-hmm.
and the other 50% was informal talking to other coaches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a USATF certification until 2016.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and it just happens to coincide with the year that I left the high school and went and I started coaching at Moorpark College.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I
Oh.
started to do more of the
Mm-hmm.
formal coach's education with USATF. I got my level one. Then I ended up getting two level twos, one in sprints and hurdles, the other one in jumps. Well, I got the jumps one first, and then with sprints and hurdles second.
Mm-hmm. Second.
So I started the actual coaching education for track later.
Any before you go to Moore Park, any clinics?
Um, no,
Okay, because I kind of that almost I think I put that in the formal bucket because it's officially a clinic and you go to listen to someone, but that's kind of a half and half, if you will,
yeah.
informal, formal. So no clinic. So how did you pick the people to talk to? Like okay, I really leaned on Sally. We'd have talks into the night about sprints and hurdles training or whatever. Blah, blah. How did you pick a Sally? How did you pick the people to actually have more than surface level conversations about training?
Um, a lot of them were friends that also competed in track, and then there was
Mm,
another person who, at the time I met at CSUN, uh, Coach Elaine. He ended up coaching at LA Valley and other places. He ended up passing a little while ago as well. Um,
I don't mean to make light, but that seems to be another theme with you, my friend.
yeah,
How come everybody's passing away here, man? I don't know. I'm a little concerned after this podcast now.
yeah, I know, right? Like it was a portion of my life where there was a lot of death within people that I knew. It was just
Hmm.
very unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah.
Like with Coach Elaine, his was illness. My hurdle coach, he was just older in age. I think he died in his 80s. And with Coach Jim Fenwick, he had battled leukemia once. I think he battled it a second time. I think that's when he ended up passing.
Yeah. Like I said,
So
Father Time, undefeated. So yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry to hear that.
so it was just unfortunate situations.
Yeah,
But like Coach Elaine, like he was somebody I did go to a lot when it comes to a lot of the coaching stuff early on in my career when I was coaching in high school
yeah.
because he was doing very well with what he was doing because like I said, he was at LA Valley before they dropped their track and field program.
Hmm.
So a lot of it was with him and friends that I also ran with.
Did you ever, I'm gonna say consult, sit down, have, again, more than surface level conversations with that guy who coached at Granada Hills?
Every now and then, yeah,
Okay.
but not as often.
You're like, I just stayed foot on the gas. I just wanted to break his
Yeah.
neck, man. I didn't want to hear from him. I hear you.
No, every now and then we had a lot of track conversations.
Yeah, I love it. How do you, and you can use your total experience on this question. How do you, when you're doing these informal, these conversations, there's some things that you'll hear from successful like highly successful coaches that don't jive with you, meaning either you don't have the facilities maybe to do it, or equipment and the budget, all that kind of stuff, or it may just be like, that's not passing the sniff test of what I believe in coaching. Because there's many, many ways how you coach sprinters and hurdlers at Buffalo is different than someone in New Mexico, Florida, North Dakota. There may be some similarities, but there are different ways. There are different ways that people are having success with their athletes in coaching. While we may all believe that there is one way, um, there are many ways that people are having success with athletes. How do you, when you were talking with a peer and they've had success because they did, every day, Jihad, we do 400-meter repeats. We do 10 of them. That's what we do for our hurdlers. And, it's like, man, I don't believe in that, but their kids are all really good. Like, how do you suss out what you're going to actually take in to, change your program, and what do you, leave to the outside?
That's a good question.
It's my job.
I think it just comes down to because I think every coach has their own philosophy of what they like to do. So
Hmm.
when you asking other coaches questions, like you kind of obviously you take all the information that they give you, but you kind of filter out the information that won't go with what you would normally do. Not, I wouldn't say normally do, what your program has been doing and what level of athlete you have and can they handle that.
Mm.
So like I think those are the big parts to kind of be able to differentiate because I may not have the same at that time in like coaching high school. I don't have the same level of athletes that somebody coaching at LSU has. I can't do the same type of training because my athletes probably can't handle that kind of workload.
Hmm.
So I either have to water that down or take some things out of it that I think my athletes can do and do those things.
Okay, you're making me think. I love this. When I get real curious about something, I think these are typically some of our better episodes, or at least better clips, because I think it helps listeners and people who listen. Okay, two things. The one thing that's really got me curious is you said that word, your philosophy of coaching. I believe in that, so I'm not dismissing it. I believe in that. I'm curious, how do you come up with a philosophy, right? And and I'm saying you in the general, you, not you specifically, John. But what I'm curious about is if you have a philosophy, especially earlier in the career, when we're 20, 30 years in versus 2 to 3 years in, those are different places where we are coaching. But if you have a philosophy, that it's hard to define how you create a philosophy, right? Because there's so many influences. Your high school coach had influence on your philosophy. Your Moorpark coach had influence on you. Your Cal State Northridge, they all, the people that you're talking to, all these influence. It's not just this one thing, right? It's an amalgamation of all these things in your own mind, like because you've had experience of workouts, and so you have a thought of whether this is a good workout or not a good workout, right? These are all part of your philosophy. How do you, general sense, but I do want you to answer this. How do you, as a track coach, create this philosophy, but yet somehow leave a door, almost at a little door, it could be a bigger door, a door open enough that you will allow other influences, right? You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? Like I believe in, speed-based sprint system, fly 30s, et cetera, et cetera. But I need to listen to the person who does 400-meter repeats. I'm using exaggerations for my point. Because maybe that is a part, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you,
Yeah.
that's a hard thing, I think.
Yeah, it is because looking back at it now that I have the information, most of the training that I did high school, college was more so closer related to a Clyde Hart version of training where it was
Yeah.
more long to short, so you're doing a lot more volume. So I kind of took on that as part of my philosophy, like you need the volume before you do the speed.
Right.
And as I started to get more information from other coaches, where I wouldn't say it was conflicting, but it was different.
Yeah.
And they were successful with what they did. So I incorporated some aspects that I thought that I could use. And then eventually, like you kind of build your own mixture of both worlds.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's just a matter of finding that balance. So I didn't throw away every aspect of what I did,
Yeah.
and I kept a lot of what new information that I did get.
That sounds very plausible and very common. And if that's the case, whether you start from the, ultimately, big generalization here, the two philosophies in the sprints hurdles world, I don't know if this would go to distance or not, but is long to short or short to long. Big generalization. There's obviously some very minute variations of those things. But how do you, if you start from a long to short, here's what I'm hearing you say. I started kind of long to short. By the way, if you're so famous when you say a Clyde Hart philosophy, you know exactly what that means. Bravo to
Yeah,
Coach Hart. But by the way, also a Gill podcast alum. If you want to know more about Coach Hart's journey, which is amazing, by the way, look in the same app that you're using now, search Clyde Hart, and you'll get his interview. He was amazing. Love Coach Hart. Um, and then you started getting some influence from again, I'm big generalizations here, Jhad, short to long people.
yeah,
And you said, and I kind of, took a little bit of what I like over here, a little bit of what I like over here, and I came up with my own system, right? So you're
yeah,
kind of, I'm gonna call it in the middle, which I'm never a fan necessarily of being in the middle, by the way, but whether it's business or coaching. But I think that's a very common thing, which now makes me start to think like, I wonder if using the 80-20 rule, if 80% of all coaching is pretty much the exact same stuff. We may just do little tweaks, but we're all kind of in the middle. I mean,
yeah,
there's certainly some people who are long to short, like, oh my God, that's all they do. Like they do quarter mile repeats every day, right? And there's certainly people on the other extreme that are, short to long. They don't even get to long. All they do is flies 365 days a year, right? Those are extremes though. The 80, the middle, I wonder if we're all kind of doing the same thing, but just very little tweaks. Like, oh, you do fly 30s on Tuesday. Well, I do them on Thursday. Or oh, you do acceleration a day before max velocity, and we're getting a little bit too much in the X's and O's for me, so I'm kind of admonishing myself here a little bit. It just makes me wonder the way you're explaining that. I don't know.
yeah,
What do you think? Am
yeah,
I off base
definitely.
here?
Yeah, no, you're definitely on base because I feel like that's a large majority of when it comes, I feel like when it comes to track coach, a lot of us do a lot of the same things. We just either
Yeah,
word it differently or we
yeah,
structure it differently.
yeah. Or like some little difference that we think is huge. Like, oh, you do it that way. Well, I do it this way, and you're like, well, that's basically the same thing, dude. Like, oh, you do fly 20s. Well, I do fly 30s. Like, well, that's the same thing. Let's
Yeah.
be real here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like the only difference is like, yeah, I might do my one day on Tuesday. You might do that day on Thursday.
yeah. Okay. So thank you for talking that out with me. Something that you said that I want to remember. I'm the host. I get to do whatever I want. That I want to challenge, and really by challenge, challenge is how you get better, right? Like you get to
Yeah.
explain yourself, and so you understand yourself better, and other people get to hear it. You said, and we're going to use LSU because I'm a friend of Dennis Shaver, so I can use him as an example. And it's a high level program. It's been high level for a long time. You said, and I'm going to use Jihad, the high school coach, to really. I like to do extremes with my examples to help
Yeah.
pull out the explanation. So you're coaching high school kids, and I think it's extremely fair to say your high school kids are probably not at the same level as LSU's kids.
Yeah.
That's probably fair. And you said, well, I can't do LSU things because my kids, they're not them, right? Is that true? And what I mean by that is, can't you do a lot of the things a dentist would be doing at LSU, but maybe the volumes aren't the same for your kids? Like you're certainly Dennis is doing fly work, I assume. You would do fly work,
Yeah.
right? Here's where I'm ultimately getting to. I had a guest on the show, and I do remember who it is, but maybe out of him. No, I'll say who it was because he's everybody knows what they're on the show for. So Keenan Briggs. Do you know Keenan Briggs? He's from California.
Yes, I do. I met him a couple times because I went to some of his Leap Fest meets that he would have in January.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
leaves squad track and field. He does a lot of coaching education on YouTube, which I love. And he said, we had him on the podcast, and he said, because we were talking about the difference between club coaching and high school coaching and how you coordinate that, and maybe
Yeah.
some of us don't, unfortunately. We have to have better communication there. But he said, in the club, we do more college level training. And I you've now been on the show for 45 minutes. You know that I challenge stuff, right? So I said, what does
Yeah.
that mean, Keenan? What do you mean that, a high school coach isn't doing this because it's college, but you are because it's club? And, he stepped back real quick. It's like, you know what? You're right. There may be not differences there because maybe we do more film study than a high school coach is because they're a teacher and they don't have time for it, not because they don't want to. They don't have time for it, but this is all I'm doing on my club. That made sense to me, right? So here I'm wondering, is that true that you, the high school coach, couldn't do the same things Dennis is doing at LSU, but because they're younger training age, the volumes would be instead of doing 10 fly 30s, you do 3 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably could have done at that time because, like I said, I was still very young in coaching. I probably could have done lesser volumes, but the way I looked at it then was like that a lot of these kids are so new to the sport that if I try to do things that people at higher levels are doing, it might not work out for them. They could get hurt because, I didn't fully understand then that I can just reduce the volume.
Okay. So you would come in the thought of like, oh, well, when I see Dennis's workouts, well, that's the workout, not, oh, I could do half of that with my younger kids.
Yeah.
I love this because where I was ultimately going to, Jihad, was, there are high school coaches. You'll be speaking, you at University at Buffalo will be speaking at a clinic, and there will be coaches who won't go listen to you because it's like, oh, he's D1. I don't have D1 kids. I can't do his workouts. When in reality, it's like, oh, no, no, no. You would learn a lot from Jihad. Jihad talking, you'd learn a lot, and then you'd go modify it to your program. Maybe you'd cut the volumes down, or maybe you don't do plyometrics with your freshmen because they're 14-year-old kids who can't even walk, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, we've got to understand that the principles of coaching are very strict. I'm not sure that's the right word, but the volumes are what really changes.
Yeah.
We should still be sprinting as freshmen in high school. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. You still should be
We should
sprinting.
still be doing some type of plyometric. By the way, sprinting is a plyometric, but we should still be doing some plyometric as a freshman.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Maybe not 42-inch depths with a weight vest on. Maybe we stay away
No.
from. Maybe we stay away from that. I don't know. Maybe, right? But and maybe instead of 3 sets of 5 plyo jumps, what being very generic with a plyo jump, maybe it's 2 sets of 5 or 1 set of 5.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a lower box. That's how we lower intensities too, right? And I think that's where there is a mistake of people who go to track clinics. And who was telling me, oh my gosh, a really good coach. We were talking about clinics, and he said he was given a presentation, and he was talking about how to set up plyometrics or something like that, and everybody was just listening. They're being cordial. And then he said, and so for this athlete, we did 3 sets of 10 or what, he started going like into the, 3 by
Yeah.
whatever, and he said, everybody picked up their paper and started writing it. And he was like, oh my God, they're going to go do this with their kids. And that's not good.
Yeah.
And so there is this like, oh, people only want the workout. And it's like, if you set up your presentation of like, hey, I'm gonna give you the workouts, just remember, I'm dealing with 21-year-old Division I athletes. You're dealing with 15-year-old multi-sport athletes or never have done the sport at all in track and field. You probably should cut this in half, let's just say.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, it was something like, metros that I have now, like, like I speak to Lamont Vaughn at Grambling State.
Love
And
him. Gill podcast alum, by the way. Love him.
yeah. So, like, like someone can give you the ingredients, but you still have to cook the meal.
That's right.
So,
Hey, that is a great example. So I'm gonna give you all the ingredients, but you know what? Your kids might be vegetarian, so maybe you don't do the meat.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great. I love this. I love this. How do we get better, Jihad? What I mean by that is like I am really fascinated with the coach as a profession, right? And so if I were someone who taught teachers, it would be the same thing like, oh, how do I help teachers get better at their job? How do we do clinics for teachers better, et cetera, et cetera. So for coaches, how do we, and like, I'm probably not going to be able to affect the people who go to clinics necessarily, but I'm getting more and more involved with clinics and clinic directors. So like helping out, emceeing and things like that. So now
Yeah.
I'm doing more with like with you, like, oh, hey, you should be presenting. And by the way, when you present, I know you're really ticked off that everybody just wants the workouts, but maybe that's what you should be presenting. But with the disclaimer at the very front of, hey, you can write down all these workouts and I bless you to do that. Here's how you cook for your place, though. So I'm gonna give you
Yeah,
all the ingredients, but this is how you need to think about cooking versus you versus you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I agree, and like I don't think mentorship to get these things right didn't happen until like after 2016 when I started to coach collegiately when it came to coaching at Moorpark and then Cal Lutheran, then Southern Arkansas, now Buffalo. Like I think I started to collect more people I can lean on and have conversations with like that. I think earlier this week I spoke with a guy I coached with at Cal Lutheran, Matthew Lee. He was the head coach there. Now he's working in admin. I sat down with him for an hour just talking about training. I sat down this summer with the Kent State Sprints coach, Michael Schober.
Yeah.
Sat down with him for like a couple hours on a Zoom call talking about training. So it's like
Yeah.
you kind of start to build people that you can get information from. You don't ask them for all the answers. You just
Right.
ask them for like more so guidance on how to get to the answer.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I love that. And maybe, first of all, I hope that this podcast is one of those things that helps. So having a conversation like this, I think, does help people. And maybe it's happening the way it's supposed to happen. Maybe Jihad in his first 1 to 5 years, whatever, of coaching, you're not supposed to be as good as you are today. You're supposed to think wrong, meaning like you're supposed to think like, oh, my way is the highway. And then as you become into year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and to your point, more people come into your network, right? You have more connections and you start
Yeah.
listening to other people and you start going, oh, okay, yeah, maybe it's not a straight popsicle. Maybe I need to learn how to bend like a straw.
Yeah.
Because by the way, because my athletes are all different. Every athlete you get is different. So maybe only having one hardcore philosophy is not proper for your athletes either. So
Because I believe that that a lot of coaching is trial and error. Like
yeah,
you'll probably earlier in your career mess up more athletes than you help, but you don't know that until later on.
yeah,
So like I was thinking if I go back to the beginning of coaching with knowledge I have now, could I have had better success with those groups? Probably, but I didn't have access to those answers back then.
yeah, yeah. I, I always think of it as a good sign when a coach tells me, you have to coach for 20 years, whatever. Sometimes an athlete in my first year that I coach will reach out to me, and then the first thing I do is just apologize to him. It's like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Like I had no clue. Like I can't believe I made you do X, Y, and Z when I really should have been doing A, B, C. I always think that's a good sign because it's like, oh, that means you grew. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a what the young kids call red flags, right? When a coach tells me, "Oh yeah, I coached the exact same way today in year 20 as I did in year one." First of all, I
Oh
challenge
man.
that. I just don't think that's even possible, to be real frank with you. But it's also like, oh, that's not good, man. Like you hear what you hear yourself? Like that's
Yeah.
not cool. Like that's not cool. Like
No, not at all.
that's
And
not
it's
good.
it's funny like how much when you're coaching, how much you actually learn from your athletes.
Hmm.
Like I learned a lot from my athletes, even though I was technically adult and they were in high school. I learned a lot from them
Yeah.
than they probably learned from me because I had to learn them to be able to coach them. And like, so you pick up a lot of different things that kind of helps you grow, not just as a coach, but grow as a person and how you kind of
Yeah.
navigate certain areas of your life.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome, man. Here's a theme from you, brother, is growth. That I keep hearing that as well. So let's continue down that growth. So you're coaching at the high school. You do it for I can't remember if you said 9 or 10 years. I keep saying a decade, and then you go to Moore Park. That's your alma mater. You went back to where you went to school.
Yeah, I went
Yeah,
back to Moorpark. So that same coach, Coach Elaine, he told me that Moorpark was looking for a sprints coach. So
nice.
he kind of pushed me that way out of high school into college. And the same coach that was there, Tracy Kephart, she's still there. So so when I my second year at Moorpark was her first year, and obviously that was years later. She's still there at Moorpark now as a head coach. So
Yeah,
I applied for that job, and she hired me onto her staff. And so 2016, I started doing that. I think it was in January, I believe.
nice.
And I stayed there until 2020 or 2021.
Okay.
And coincidentally, I did double duty for a couple of years. so Moorpark is obviously in Moorpark, California, but it's kind of just north of LA County. And I started working at Cal Lutheran, which is in Thousand Oaks, in 2019. But I kind of did double duty because the schools are only like 2 miles apart.
All right, hold on. We definitely, after 300 something episodes, I feel like I've heard almost everything, or at least variations of everything. This is a new one. First of all, quick question. You go to Moorpark, California junior colleges are famous that head coaches must have a master's because you're going to teach.
Yeah.
At this point, we know you still don't have an undergrad. Are you getting an undergrad finishing your undergrad during Moorpark?
Yes,
Okay.
2016, I decided to go back to school because, like,
Nice.
long story short, I kept telling all my high school athletes, go get your degree, go get your degree. So I was like, I'm being a hypocrite. I'm telling them to go get a
Sure.
degree, and I didn't finish it.
Yeah, sure.
So when I got the job in Moorpark, I decided to go back
Yeah.
to
Where'd you end
school.
up getting your degree from?
I ended up getting it at CSUN because I ended up going back to CSUN.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, so I ended up getting that.
And did it end up being in kinesiology or what was the
Yeah,
final?
yeah,
Yeah.
and got into sports studies.
Dude, I think I have so much respect for people who go to college at some point and drop out and then go back later, whether it's 1 year later, 20 years later, 30 years later. There's stories of amazing people. I think it's harder the longer you're out. When
It
you're when,
is.
when you're in it, it's just like, all right, man, I just got to finish 4 years or 5 years, just slog it through. Because I don't think college is for everybody necessarily. So you just kind of grunt it and get it done. And by the time you're 22, cool, it's done, and you got the rest of your life. You get that taste of not college,
Yeah,
whether that taste is good or bad. But getting it into work and not having to turn in term papers and stuff like that, and then you think, I got to go back. Oh, and I'm probably going to go back while I'm still working, by the way.
yeah.
Boy, that's hard. That's hard. So bravo, man. I appreciate a little bit of self-awareness of like, man, I keep telling these guys and gals to go to college. Don't look into my closet because I ain't got a diploma in there, you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool, man. Bravo. That's
Well,
that's
thank
pretty
you.
cool. That's a lot of perseverance. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, wait a minute. You're coaching at Moorpark Community College. At the same time, you're coaching at Cal Lutheran.
Yes.
How does that work? Are the statute of limitations gone? Because that feels illegal for some reason.
No, it was it wasn't because I was part-time at both. So like but
We're recording, right? I just want to make sure
yeah,
before.
no, no.
Okay, all
There,
right,
there
all
was,
right.
there was nothing illegal happening.
Okay, all right.
But so Moore Park, we practice from 1 to 3. Cal Lutheran is like a mile and a half up the road, and they practice at a local high school that was actually closer to Moore Park College. So they practice from like 3:30 to 5:30.
Wow.
So I would leave Moore Park's practice, drive a mile up the road, go to Cal Lutheran and do that practice.
Dude, you love coaching so much. You're like, I'm gonna go get two jobs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work double shift coaching.
Yes.
Were you coaching? Okay, this is interesting. Were you coaching the same event areas at both?
Yes.
Did you on Monday, let's just say whatever workout you did with Moore Park, was that the exact same workout at Cal Lutheran? Were you just doing the same workout both places?
No, I would do separate workouts because um not because it was different athletes, it was just they were on different practice schedules.
Hmm.
So like at Moore Park, I coached both sprints and hurdles. At Cal Lutheran, I was just coaching the hurdles. Matthew Lee, who was the head coach, he was the sprints coach. So I just took on the hurdlers. So like on most of the sprint days, like they would be with him. So I would just do the workouts that he would have the sprinters do for the long hurdles. I would take that group and do his workout that he wanted them to do. On the hurdle days, I would do the workouts I wrote up for the hurdlers to do.
Hmm.
So we kind of work together on navigating that. So like I got a lot of great insight on training from Matt
Hmm.
because I believe he ran at the University of Arizona. So like so he was a wealth of knowledge because he ran for Coach Harvey.
Hmm.
And so there was we had a lot of conversations about training.
Yeah.
So I was able to navigate doing both Moore Park and Cal Lutheran at the same time because it was very close in proximity.
it was almost a trick question because I was like, I know they're on different schedules, the California JUCO versus Cal Lutheran. So it was a little bit like I was like, I hope he says no because if it's yes, I don't think he was doing it right. We'd have plugged in there a little bit. So I'm glad you did not do that. Yeah. Um, did you like what are the first of all that the timing worked out? Just get travel and everything. I can't believe that even worked out. That just feels like buy a lottery ticket. That's pretty lucky.
Yeah,
How much did you? I mean, repetitions matter, right? Like, have you heard the rule of 10,000
yeah,
hours? Okay, right. It's from one of my favorite books, my favorite author, Malcolm Gladwell, a book called Outliers. If you're a reader, highly recommend it. He's an amazing author and storyteller. But the gist is if to become an expert at something, 10,000 intentional practice hours, right? And I think the same is true for coaching.
yeah,
Like when you see, I should try to figure it out one day, like how many years of coaching in average equals 10,000 hours of actual coaching. Um, and so you were getting a double up, right? So how many years
yeah.
did you do both of this?
Um, three.
So that three was actually like six. Someone had to do 6 years to get what you were getting 3 years of. Because you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said you learn a lot from your athletes, you learn a lot from your own mistakes. You were speeding up that process. You had more athletes to work with,
Yeah,
meaning you were making more mistakes, but learning more from those mistakes too.
yes.
That's interesting. Did you feel like looking back now, did you become a much better coach during this time?
I believe I did. I
Mm-hmm.
believe I did because it was like the learning curve was so sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you're working with two different sets of athletes at the same time, not technically the same time, but in the same day,
Yeah.
and you're kind of coaching every single one of them differently.
Mm-hmm.
So you just it's almost like a sociological experiment on how to deal with people.
That's what I'm saying. It's extremely interesting. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely fun and interesting. I would say the hardest part of it all was which track meet am I going to
Yeah,
travel
I was going to get
for
there. Yeah,
school
yeah, yeah,
to?
yeah, yeah. But before we get there, because that's an obvious question, right? Sometimes when we're working with athletes, and maybe we've got them divvied up into different groups. Let's just say the normal people, Jihad. There's one school, one program, but you divvy up your kids into different. Maybe you work with hurdlers from 1 to 2, and your sprinters 2 to 3, or something like that. We'll do something with one group, and it'll tick something in the brain of like, oh man, I wonder if that's what's wrong with Johnny, or maybe that's what we've been struggling with Johnny. I got to remember this for Johnny's practice. I could see that with you on these, Moorpark in the, I'm gonna call it the morning and Cal Lutheran in the afternoon. I could see you like working with a Moorpark athlete going, oh man, this is what Larry's frustrated with. When I get to Cal Lutheran, I can't wait to, say
Yeah.
this cue or, try this drill or something like that's where I think the speed up of it is
Yeah.
enhanced.
Yes, 100%. Because I had a lot of those moments where, like you said, like it would just click. Oh, this could work for this athlete over here. I'm gonna try with them when I get to practice, see how they
Mm-hmm.
react
Mm-hmm.
to it, and if it works for them. If it does work, we'll keep beating that drum. So like that happened all the time. It was like
That's
I think
so
this,
interesting.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, so I think the secret to coaching is go coach two different programs at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you get double the feedback.
We'll call it the jihads. Like how do you coach? Oh, I coach by the jihad method. I coach and someone's going to try to double down, be like, oh, I coach three programs. I coach this school from 10 to 12, this school from 1 to 3, this school from 5 to 7. Except for track season is because Jihad learned this, it's every year, but it's every Saturday essentially. So what did you do when Moorpark and Cal Lutheran went to different? Did you ever go to the same meets?
Sometimes they will end up the same because it's in the same mean. So I'm coaching both schools at the same
Did
time.
tell me, please tell me you went to like a shirt shop and got a custom polo, the typical coaches, half Moore Park, Hal Cath Lutheran. Please tell me you did that.
No, I wish I did. I wish I did. Like I would. It was. I would wear if I wore a Moore Park polo, I would take a Cal Lutheran hoodie, and vice versa.
Nice, nice. Oh my God. I love it. Okay. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, Jihad, you seem to be frozen, but you can still hear me and I can still hear you. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's keep going. Maybe the video will catch up here in a second. Uh, so okay, I love that you did that. That's awesome. What did you do when we went to separate meets?
Um, the level of importance of the meet. So like
Mm,
if it was like because in the SIAC, which is a D3 conference that Cal Lutheran was in, they would have like tri meets within the conference. So if they were having one of those meets, I'd travel with them. And then Moorpark in the Western State Conference, they would have the same thing. They'll have little conference mini meets. If it was one of those meets, I would travel to Moorpark with them. But if it was an invitational, I would I would like I said, depending on which meet was what, I would that's where I would go.
obviously, the two head coaches knew about this, right? There was no secrets
No,
there.
there was no secret because it was
You were in the hoodie and the polo, so everybody knew.
yeah, it
D-
wasn't a secret because I got the Cal Lutheran job through the Moorpark coach because
oh wow.
the Cal Lu coach was asking if Tracy's husband knew anybody that could coach the hurdles, and he was like, "Well, we do have Jihad here, but we don't want to give him up." So so like
Wow, that's so unique. I just wonder. I have not heard that. That's really interesting. Okay, but at the end of the day, you're still hustling, meaning that these are two part-time jobs. You seem to probably have been on the hunt for a full-time job. Where did we go next? And hopefully it's a full-time job.
my next job, I ended up leaving both schools and I went to Southern Arkansas University.
The mule riders, baby.
Yes.
Okay. Always fascinating to me. And I don't know why it's an issue because I struggle with other people having this as an issue because I did not have this as an issue. This is the first time. Oh,
I just turned off the camera to see if it'll.
okay. Scared me. I thought you left me.
No, no, I'm still here.
So now I don't have any picture of you at all.
Yeah, right. I turned the camera back on, but it didn't reset.
All right. The best news is we can still hear each other. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you perfectly.
Oh, this is very unfair. Okay, fine. So you get to stare at me, and I just get to not. I get to stare at your name at the University at Buffalo. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the first. You did go to Oregon for a year, up to Eastern Oregon. So, but a lot of people call the West Coast all one state. All right.
Yeah.
This is radically a different location, man. You ain't in California now. You in Arkansas. First of all, was that ever a concern when you were looking at, interviewing and accepting the job? And how did it change it? It's a different culture.
Yes, completely different culture. And because I was always open to the idea of leaving California because I knew at some point I probably have to, if I'm gonna kind of want to dive deeper into this career and get a full-time job somewhere else, I knew it might not be in California.
Right.
So when I looked up the Southern Arkansas job, when I saw the posting, I looked up the athletes and it was a large team, like well over 100 athletes.
Mm.
Um, and I just looked at the sprint and hurdles group and there was, a decent amount of talent. So I was like, well, I think I would love to work with these kids. There's some decent talent here. There's some kids that can probably develop. And it kind of intrigued me, even though I've never lived in the South before. Like I don't think I had many experiences in the South. So that was kind of the big thing was the culture shock.
What did you think? Because, Californians are an interesting breed, in my opinion, too. I've never met a California that doesn't want to get back to California. Um, and so there's perceptions like what I perceive of Californians. There's people who have perceptions about the South. What were your perceptions going to Arkansas? What did you think? And then what was reality?
Oh man, my main thing was like, am I gonna be able to understand anybody? Because I know that
Because of the accents.
yeah, because of the accents were significantly different than Southern California. And then the
Yeah.
other part was dealing with the weather. I was like, I'm used to dry heat in Southern California.
Oh, yeah. Very humid. Yes.
And then the humidity was like so much different. And the style of living. Obviously, there's not many places that can duplicate the style of living of Southern California.
Good point. And that's why every California wants to get back, by the way. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Did you have your first glass of sweet tea in Arkansas?
Uh, Not actually in Arkansas, actually in Louisiana.
But when you went to when
Yeah.
you're coaching in Southern
Yeah,
Arkansas,
when I
that
was coaching in Southern Arkansas, and like
that all counts.
the biggest thing for me was like, because in Southern California, people don't really talk to each other when we're out and about. You just kind of move. And the first time I went to Walmart to go buy things, people would just stop and talk to you, and then I didn't know how to take that. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, why are you talking to me?
Right.
I'm busy doing things like because in California we don't stop to talk. So it was just I had to get used to people having wanting to have conversations.
So I grew up in Alabama, high school and college there. But after high school, I moved to Chicago I lived there for 3 years. That's where I started coaching. And so I got very used to Chicago, right? And then after 3 years, I went back down to start coaching at Troy University. And I remember, so Troy was about an hour from where I went to high school. So when I first got to Troy, I drove to my hometown to go, see my family and everything. And mind you, when I left Alabama to go to Chicago, I did not drive. I didn't have the car that I had now when I was at Troy. And so I'm driving from Troy to Eufaula. And as I pass, I'm not on a highway, basically a 2 lane road all the way there because it's Alabama. Uh, Everybody that would, as they approach me, you know what I'm saying? You can see me. So, as they approach me and I approach them, right?
Yeah,
That have their hand on the steering wheel and they'd give the
yeah,
index finger, the high finger, not the middle finger, guys, the,
yeah,
the the high finger, right? And I remember the first one that passed and did that. Oh my God, what are the odds that someone that I know from high school would be on this road? Like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then the next car, came and did the high finger, and I was like, oh, two people that know me, like that's amazing. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, idiot. First of all, they don't know this car is me. Like they don't know, like these people don't actually know who I am. And I was like, oh, that's right. I'm in the South. I'm back in the South where we say hi to everybody. It's just a natural, even strangers in car. Hi,
yeah,
it's just the difference of culture. In Chicago, you did that, bad things would happen. So we didn't do that in Chicago. So
yeah.
that makes sense. So was Joseph Blue at Southern Arkansas when you were there?
No, he had finished his GA program before I got there. He was already
Okay.
at Cal Poly.
Okay.
At Cal Poly,
Yeah, I couldn't remember the
Pomona.
years. Joseph Blue's one of the originals. He might be episode around 50 or so on the podcast. Had a great time learning his journey. And I can't remember, I feel like no, maybe he was at Cal Poly when he was on there. I don't remember. So long ago, but amazing. But I remember him from Southern Arkansas. Okay. Uh, you go to Southern Arkansas. Tell us the differences. Full time now, so you don't get to double dip here. You're focused on the mule riders. Talk to us about your growth there at Southern Arkansas University.
My growth there was a little bit different because I didn't have, before I got there, I didn't really have to deal with the athletes off the track.
Because you were part time.
Yeah, because I was part-time, so I
Yeah.
just show up, coach, and I leave. So at Southern Arkansas, I had to take on the responsibility of making sure athletes are doing their study hall hours, making sure
Right.
they're getting classwork done, having meetings with them. So it was like I started to take on more responsibility than I had to take on before. So that learning curve was actually pretty quick. I had to kind of figure that out on the fly.
This is great because when we get into coaching, generally we get into coaching because we like to be on the track, right? We like to be setting up hurdles and work with hurdlers, or we like to be in the sand pit, or we like to be doing splits, whatever, right? We like to be on the track for that 2 to 3 hours, whatever it is, right? But when we get into coaching, we learn, some of us quicker than others, that's this much, a very small part of the job for college coaching specifically. And I know high school coaches, because of teaching, it really is because there's so much more to do with teaching. But in the college world, academics, recruiting, etc., you learn. So Southern Arkansas is where you learn, like, oh, it's not just writing up workouts and putting them through the workouts. There is so much more that goes on with this job title of coaching track and field.
Yeah, that and the other responsibilities that are assigned is a term I figured out.
Well, that is a famous in coaching and business world. We say that around here where, we'll be doing some project that we never thought we'd be doing. It's like, well, other duties is assigned. Here we are. This podcast is, well, I signed it to myself, but this is some
Yeah,
other duties as assigned. Yeah. How did you, first of all, how many years were you at Southern Arkansas?
two.
Okay. How did you, during that 2 year time, how did you adjust to that? Because that is different, right? Let's be real. That is not the reason we get into coaching. So I'm going to call that the less fun stuff, not less important stuff, but less fun stuff than actually writing workouts and conducting the workouts. How did you adjust to other duties as assigned?
Uh, man, the adjustment was slow in the beginning because the other responsibilities that I had to do outside of recruiting was the maintenance of our own facilities. So we had to, so me, myself, Kelsey, who's now at Boise State, and
Mm,
Sinclair, who's now at Eastern New Mexico,
mm.
we all kind of had different responsibilities, but we all had to do kind of the same thing when it comes to mowing the fields. Like
Oh, other duties as
yeah,
assigned.
yeah. So we were mowing the infield of the track, weed eating, taking care of the of all the equipment. So like I had to learn how to use a riding mower. Never been on a riding mower before because obviously nobody has a riding mower in Southern
I was
California.
gonna say you're so California. Yeah.
And like like and using a weed eater, we haven't used that since I was a kid, having to do chores at home in the yard.
Hmm.
So it was doing all of that stuff was what was part of the other duties as assigned was taking care of the facilities.
Now, be real with us. What did you think when they started saying, okay, so on Mondays or every other week, you're going to be mowing? And you're like, whoa, what do you mean mowing? I'm here to coach. I mean, I have to assume you're a great guy, Jihad, but I have to assume you didn't just like welcome with open arms. Cool, man. You want me to mow? I'll mow. You maybe
Yeah,
eventually got there, but there had to be a little bit like, where's that in the coaching world? No one, I've never been to a clinic where they talked about mowing lawns, boys and girls. What are we doing?
yeah, exactly. It was I was like, what do you mean, Mo? Like, don't you doesn't facilities do that? That's
Right.
because like at Moorpark we were spoiler facilities. They handled everything for us.
Hmm.
So like I didn't have to set up anything for practice when it comes to like opening long jump pits or anything like that. They did it for me. They filled the long jump pits with sand. All I had to do was rake it.
Wow.
So, but at Southern Arkansas, I had to do all of that. And so it was like, there's no way that this is part of a coaching responsibility. It can't be. But I figured it out because if we don't do it, it's not going to get done. So
Right.
you just have to roll your sleeves up and get the job done.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you say having an attitude of this was beneath me. It was just like, whoa, wait a minute. Was just unaware that this was part of the responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't think it was beneath me. I was like,
Right.
but why do I have to do this? Doesn't other people on campus get paid to do this job?
Right. 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 Yeah.
But no,
So
but
y-
it is what it is.
a little bit of backtracking. So you said when you started coaching college, Moorpark Cal Lutheran, and maybe here with Southern Arkansas as well, you started doing some more of the formal coaching education. Is this where you did level ones and level twos and stuff?
Yeah, I did my first level one, my second year at Moore Park. I did my first level two my third year at Moore Park, and then I did my second level two my last year at Moore Park before I went to Southern Arkansas. So that's when I started to um, do the formal education and then started to meet more people and
Mhm.
find more peers and mentors that I can talk to, like Cornelius Song. I met him at my first level one. Met one of the level two jumps coaches was Rock Light
Hmm.
and 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 Sean Venable at
Hmm.
Liberty.
Hmm.
Um, so it was just that's when I started to build my network of people that I can lean on, ask questions to. And when I see them around, obviously I have conversations with them about it as well.
Yeah, a lot of I shouldn't say a lot of people. Some people rail against certifications and it's like, oh, it's not really effective, or nothing actually gets done. And it's like, first of all, there is education that happens. What you accept is what you accept in that education. But the networking side of it, and I don't mean networking like, oh, this person can help me get a job one day or might hire me one day, but the ability you now have the ability to call Rocklight, one of the best coaches around, by the way. Kind of gets a little slept on now that he's not Division One, but he's getting it done in Division Two. Guys, don't sleep
Yeah.
on Rock Light. Love him. He was one of my level two instructors as well. I think he was in my combined events, if I remember correctly. But But a great dude. Love Rocklight a lot. Is that networking of like, oh, I can now more easily. Now we're a fairly open society in track and field coaches, thank God. But you're more easily able to call a Rocklight and get guidance than before.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, Southern Arkansas for 2 years. Where do we go next and why?
Um, and then my next job after Southern Arkansas was here at Buffalo.
Yeah, wow. So
So
you are just trying to get as far away from California as possible.
yeah, apparently I just keep moving closer and closer to the Atlantic Ocean.
And screw the weather. You just like going full bore. Buffalo has some of the worst winters known to man, and you were just like, whatever, man, I can get it done.
Yeah, like it's my first winter here, I was not prepared.
You can't be. Buffalo has some tough winters.
I was not prepared for it. It was a rough winter. I got through it, but like having the indoor field house here to train in the winter
Yeah,
is a huge help. I don't think
big deal.
anybody could survive here training outside in the winter here. It's not going to happen. And surprisingly, I when I initially thought of Buffalo when I took the job was that the winter before was the winter that was one of the worst in Buffalo's history, where like I guess like some people got stuck on roads, died in the winter on the roads because they so like when I took the job, it was like, people died in Buffalo last winter. How are you gonna survive? I was like, everyone reassured me that that was an anomaly. But like where the campus is located, we don't get as bad as snow as you would think.
Oh, okay.
It's the south towns where the Bills play
Hmm.
is where all the heavy snowfall happens. So that's what people see when they see Buffalo. They see by the stadium where the Buffalo Bills play that gets all the heavy snow. So where they might get 6 feet, where we are on campus, we might get 6 inches to a foot.
Did you even have a jacket when you moved to Buffalo?
Surprisingly, I did. My mom actually bought.
I told you, mom, she's always watching, man.
Yeah, my mom actually bought me one
Like,
because I'm used to California winters where you just need a hoodie.
right. That's what I'm saying. She was like, well, Jihad didn't become a lawyer, so he's going to need as much help as possible. I better buy him a jacket.
Yeah, exactly. So like, she spotted me with that one.
Um, why Buffalo? And what I mean by that is, um, every place has pros and cons. Let's be real here. Even the places maybe some people don't think have cons, like in Oregon or Florida, they have struggles. Buffalo, Division One, that could be a pro, could be a con, but it could be a pro. Weather for me, that would be a con. Like in my scale of important things like that, just that's terrible. I don't enjoy weathers here in Illinois for crying out loud. I'm definitely not doing Buffalo. Um, so that's a pro and a con. Location, you are getting farther and farther away from California. That could be a pro or con. How did the pros outweigh the cons for you to choose Buffalo? Because I always assume if you got hired at Buffalo, that means other places would have been if they had positions or in reality were interested in you as well. Meaning you had options. So why Buffalo?
Um, I would say it was more so the opportunity because like I've coached every level, high school, JUCO, D3, D2,
That's right.
and and now
You've
Division One.
what do they call it in baseball when you hit a
What,
single?
here for the cycle,
So you've coached for the cycle, baby,
right? The only
right?
Yeah, pretty much the NCAA cycle, yeah, because I haven't coached at any high level, so
Oh, NEI. That's right. Okay, so we're
that
we're
happened.
one short. We got to get you there. Okay, all
Yeah, I
right.
know, right?
Hey, I figure you're used to working two jobs. Maybe just find like whatever the closest NEIA school is in Buffalo and just do both.
Exactly. I could probably definitely do that,
Something
but
tells me Buffalo would not not
no, it
like
wouldn't
that.
happen. Like
Yeah.
the responsibilities are different here, so like there's
Yeah.
no way I can squeeze that in.
Yeah. Okay. So great point. Every place is different, right? So some of the responsibilities that you had at Southern Arkansas, you do not have at Buffalo, and vice versa. Some things that you didn't do at Southern Arkansas, you do other duties as assigned to Buffalo. How have you been handling that transition of different responsibilities?
Um, Actually, pretty well because none of my other duties assigned are manual labor.
Amen,
So,
brother. I'm with you on this. Trust me.
so like I'm no longer cutting grass and anything like that. Um, I would say I just have to dive heavier into recruiting.
Mhm.
I This is the first job I've ever had to where I actually have office hours. Like
Mhm.
I would. typically only go to the office if an athlete needed to speak to me or I needed to get something done. So having office hours was something that was new to me because I would, at Southern Arkansas, I would show up, do my work, do my other duties, and then go to practice and go home.
Right.
So like I would only be in office if an athlete needed to speak to me. But here, we have office hours in the morning until early afternoon when practice starts. So I'm learning a different side of the sport when it comes to the administrative work that goes into like preparing official visits,
Right.
taking care of meals. Like because I'm when we travel for track, I'm the person that handles all the meals, making sure that meals are getting delivered on time. We're picking up meals,
Yep.
everybody's order is in. So that's one of my responsibilities on top of just the regular office hours and stuff like that. So it's learning how to do all that, then learning how to balance budgets, doing expense
Hmm.
reports, stuff I didn't have to do before. So it's a different learning curve of kind of helping me grow in my career with having different skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you handling now? You don't, it's not like you've coached for the past 15 years at Division One, so you've seen a lot of the change in recruiting through the Division One. However, you have been at some, talking about hitting the cycle here, you have been at some really unique to each other aspects of recruiting, right? Recruiting for Moorpark was different than recruiting at Southern Arkansas. Recruiting as a high school coach, and you know what I mean when I say that,
Yeah.
meaning being recruited and things, having kids being recruited and stuff like that is different than at Cal Lutheran. You're at Division One. You're in a great conference, tough conference. Been there, been through those battles. How are you continually improving and adjusting with the recruiting side of where Division One is today? 2025 is way different than my last year in 2005. How are you finding success in today's Division One recruiting?
Um, for me, it's more so finding personality types that fit with me and what I want the group to look like. Because you could recruit a kid that's hyper talented, but that kid may be like immature in ways that can kind of hurt not just themselves, but hurt the roster as well.
Right,
So obviously you don't want to just completely turn kids away. You don't want to just throw a kid away and say that they're not able to be helped. But you do also want to make sure that the kids you're bringing in are also a good fit,
right.
especially with a school like Buffalo, where academically, like we're telling kids don't submit an SAT score if it's under 1300.
Wow.
So So obviously, like the academic rigors of this school, the kid has to be able to handle that as well. So you have to be talented and be academically inclined to do the work.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those are kind of things that we kind of look at.
Where, Jihad, you've been very transparent throughout this whole process, and I'm really grateful for that because I think that's where we get better. We get to tell our stories better, and people get to learn better. Where have you, as you continue to navigate and learn and continue to improve, where are you struggling? What are some things like, um, back in my day, back in my day, I might have said, like at Mississippi State, I thought when I went from Ball State to Mississippi State, I naively thought, oh, this is going to be much easier because when I was at Ball State, I had to tell everybody where Ball State was and who we were and we're Division One and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, when I get to Mississippi State, they watch football on Saturdays. They're going to know. We're SEC, obviously in Mississippi, things like that. It's going to be easier. And I still remember one of my first recruits I called and I was like, hey, so who, when we got talking about official visits, I was like, who all are you, going to take official visits to? And the person was like, oh, Florida, Baylor, USC, and I can't remember who the other one, maybe Georgia or something. And I was like, holy crap, wait a minute, this didn't get easier. Like this got harder maybe like yeah, sure, everybody knows where I'm at, but I have to recruit the same caliber as Mouse and USC and Clyde Hart. I was like, holy crap, this got hard. I struggled with that initially and had to find the right kids to recruit to Mississippi State. Where do you struggle at this point with just recruiting in general? Maybe it's probably something different than what I did.
Finding kids that not only are talented, but can academically handle the curriculum here.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if I find those kids, I'm also competing with the Ivy Leagues.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if they're here in the Northeast, they're looking at, they're looking at Cornell, they're looking at Harvard, they're looking at Yale, they're looking at Columbia. So I'm
Right.
competing with all of the Ivy Leagues. And then also in the state of New York, we're battling with uh Syracuse is 2 hours away.
Mm.
Um, a lot of kids in the Northeast love Penn State. So
Hmm.
Penn State's 4 hours away.
Right.
If I go into Ohio, it's gonna be tough because I'm battling Ohio State and the rest of the
Hmm.
MAC schools. So,
Right.
so you would think that the recruiting would get easier. Oh, I'm at a D1.
Yeah.
You just call a kid and be like, "Oh, I'm a D1 coach." They're
Right.
gonna answer the call. It's not as easy as you think because not only you kind of have to be able to connect with that athlete to them believe in you to come to your program.
Right.
So it's tough. I can't just say, "Oh, I'm a D1 coach. I can talk to whoever I want now."
Yeah.
you know, Early in my coaching career, when I was coaching high school, I thought that's how it kind of was. As soon as I get to D1 school, all I have to do is just pick up the phone, everyone's going to answer.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Spot on. Appreciate again that openness there. You're right. There's a lot of options, right? There are a lot of schools out there, a lot of good schools, Ohio State, Penn State, Buffalo, et cetera. Those are really good schools. And on top of that, because you're talking about, you started by saying about finding the right personalities for your group too, right? Because you're right, one bad apple can spoil the bunch, right? So cultural fit. There are a lot of great coaches out there. Like I said, when that first recruit told me University of Florida, well, Mouse was a mentor of mine during coaching. Now he's a good friend of mine, but he was a mentor of mine. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to beat the guy who taught me so much about how to coach. wait,
Yeah.
wait a minute. So, like when you're recruiting against Penn State, Ohio State, Syracuse, there's a lot of great coaches at those schools too. And you're like, well, crap, man, I like that guy or I like that gal. That
Yeah.
stinks. That it just makes it harder. So you're right. That's where I think sometimes bad ego, I don't think ego is bad. I think bad ego is bad. People think, oh, if I just got to D1, I would clean up. Or, oh, if I just got to the Power Four, no one could stop me. And it's like, you are basically belittling every other coach, then, every other D1 coach, if
Yeah.
you think just because you make it a D1, you're going to be able to just have your pick. Um, uh, and you're foolish enough to think that there's not 1,000 schools that all have kids. Like, it's still rare, not as rare as it was yesterday, basically, but it's still rare that a college shuts down. So there are still schools that attract kids. And you think just
Yes.
because you're there now, they're just going to come to you? I don't know. That sounds a little foolish. So I appreciate your openness with that struggle, and that is tough, right? Now, here's the good news for you, Jihad. It may have been a struggle, or may continue to be a struggle. You're getting it done. You're getting kids. You're getting great kids, and you guys are having success there at Buffalo.
Yeah, we are. We're having a lot of success, but like the other hard part is that me and my friend Reggie, he was at UCLA before he went to Bowling Green. We are the new coaches in the MAC, and every other sprints coach in the conference has built a rapport with all the coaches and club coaches within the area. So they kind of have a pipeline, and we're kind of trying to interrupt that.
Mm,
And it's since my first year here, obviously it was hard because nobody knew who I was. Like I'm not an East Coast kid. They don't. So it's like so the recruiting was a little bit challenging to kind of get people to buy into the vision that I had.
yeah,
So, but now that I'm in year three, I feel like it's a little bit easier, but it's still challenging because all these other coaches I'm coaching against at Kent State with Schober, at Eastern Michigan with Chris Best, and Ball State with Adrian Waitley is like it's not easy because they are all phenomenal at what they do.
yeah.
Like you can't walk into a conference thinking that, oh, I'm here, I'm about to take over now. It doesn't work like that anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I want to stress upon young people that want to get into coaching, track and field, that this is not easy. Um, and sometimes, you know what? It's not fun either. All jobs, no matter what job is, has parts that are just not fun. Cutting grass was, I just
Ah,
imagine, for me, would not be fun.
no.
Losing out on a kid, uh, the worst to me was when I would have a great rapport with the kid, a great rapport with the parent, and would lose out to them for whatever reason, doesn't matter, and then they would call me and tell me, "Hey, coach, we decided to go to Buffalo with Coach Jones and but we love you. We love the school. We love your program. Boy, she would have really succeeded." And I was like, "Man, just tell me you hate me. Not that you love me and you're not picking me." It's like, oh man, it just broke my heart a lot of times. So any, young person that's thinking about getting into coaching because they think it's fun and easy, it's like, man, it's funny. It's fun and easy to not do very well. That's not always fun, but it's easy to not do very well, to just be at a program and be like, yeah, whoever decides to show up on first day of school, that's who we'll take. And, we'll coach and we'll have some fun. But if you want to be successful, if you want the numbers you need to have on your team, and you want to be in the hunt for conference titles and have kids going to nationals, that takes a lot more stuff that sometimes is a grind. The academic side, the recruiting side, hear no more than you hear yes during recruiting, going to meets that you don't want to go to because you've been to 100 meets in a row, but you got to be there for recruiting. That's not always fun, and it's definitely not easy because there's a lot of great people in this profession, and that's who you're up against. And that
Oh
can be
yeah,
tough.
definitely. Like
Yeah.
you have to get used to hearing the word no from
Yeah.
recruits.
And now you're part of the problem, Jihad. Someone right now is that I'll use Buffalo State just as an example since they're right there and the former coach is a good friend. Someone now is like, man, that freaking Jihad, he moved to Buffalo and now kids are going to his school instead of mine. But he's a good dude. So I don't, you're part of the problem now. You're part of that making it harder for everybody, my
Yeah, and
friend.
it's funny because I had that conversation with a coach from Alfred University that's a couple hours away. We ended up at the same like Section 6 championship meet recruiting, and she was like, every recruit I talk to say they're going to Buffalo. And I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Like,
You're like, I hope it's at Buffalo and not Buffalo State that they're
yeah,
mentioning,
that
by the
too.
way.
That too. So I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to hinder your ability to recruit.
Yeah, first of all, you're not sorry. Get out of here with that saying you're sorry stuff, man. All right. Second of all, Jihad, we are end of time, my friend. So, one last question for you. As you look towards the future, we're staring 2026. The track season will be starting here before you know it. What's got you excited about the university at Buffalo?
Oh man, I'm excited the fact that all of my returners and incoming freshmen, they came in great shape. They took the summer training seriously. Since this was our first week of training, everybody looks very fit. They were ready to attack the week, and it looked really good. So I'm excited about what we can do this year, and hopefully make a bigger splash in the MAC championships this year.
That's awesome, man, because you are up against it. Like I said, that is a tough conference with a lot of really good coaches that are established and have done a great job. And you don't walk into that conference and just walk on over. You got to hustle, you got to work hard. And obviously, Jihad, listening to your journey and your story here, you've got the ingredients. We talked about the ingredients of a cake. You've got the ingredients, and now you're cooking, my friend. You're figuring out your stride and getting it done there in the MAC and at the University at Buffalo.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you. The most important, most valuable thing you can give me is time. And practice started this week, as we mentioned here when we're recording. So time is of the essence. You don't have very much time for me, so I'm always grateful. Really appreciate you sitting down, sharing your journey with us. I think it was fascinating. I love that you don't have. You ever seen that thing on social media where they talk about what you think success is, and it's a guy riding his bike, and it's just
Yeah.
constantly going up towards success. And then it said, reality is, there's potholes and there's backtracks and stuff like that.
Yes.
You're that story, Jihad. You're not the guy who came straight out of high school, went 4 or 5 years in college, knew he was going to be a coach, went and got his GA, did that's some people's paths, and I bless that path. Your path is one of like, oh man, this did not work out for me at Eastern Oregon. I'm gonna have to transfer. I'm gonna have to go to community college. Oh man, I thought I was gonna be a football player. Now that's not my identity anymore. It's gonna be track. Oh man, this track thing isn't kind of working out real well. You know what? This guy doesn't think I can coach as good as him. I'll show him. I get into a coach. I mean, that's amazing. That is literally the
Yeah.
reality of that. It is not a linear path up to success. That you have to get beat up sometimes. You got to take that punch, and you got to come back stronger, or you don't. Some people make the choice not
Yeah.
to. They go somewhere else, and that's okay too.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
I
I
think our
took I took the long road to get here.
yeah, and you know what? Here's the truth, and I can speak from vast experience of 300 plus interviews of paths. They're all the long path. I have yet, maybe that's the one because I keep thinking like, man, I have not had a new story after 300 some interviews. I don't think anybody has had the short path, my friend. I don't think anybody has, had an amazing college career and their first job out of college was at this amazing big university and they won nationals for the next 20 years.
No, that doesn't happen.
We've gone junior college. We've got out of the profession. We have gotten fired. All these things happen to us. They're all the long road, and I think that's what I think that's why great character men and women are gravitated towards coaching track and field. I really do. I think that's why the greatest people in our society gravitate towards coaching track and field because at the end of the day, that long road is because I'm positively impacting young people, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Jihad, my friend, thank you again so much. I'm grateful for you, grateful for your path. I'm excited that you are still so early in this long path. Your path is long, and we're still maybe one lap into a mile here. You've got a
Yeah.
long, long career. I'm excited to watch from the sidelines and cheer you on because it's obviously going to continue growth with young people, what you're doing with them. Your own career path is going to continue to grow, and I'm pumped to watch and be a fan.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to see where it all ends.
Yeah, well, you got the front row seat. I'm on the sideline, so I love it. Well, thank you guys again, gals, for being here again today. I'm just super excited as we've got some cool things coming up here on the podcast. Of course, we're going to continue. Every Monday, we will have our long form Gill Connections podcast. That is central to our mission here to uplift and honor coaches around the country. We will continue to develop the Gill 1918 Project podcast that we publish Tuesdays through Sunday when we have content for that. I want to give a shout out to Coach O. They have come on and just taken over Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, we have a Gill 1918 Project powered by Coach O with amazing speakers, and we're just pumped for that. And so if the Gill 1918 Project is open for everybody, every coach. First year, first day, 100th year, 100th day, no matter what event, no matter what, if you can have a 10 to 30-minute audio that is valuable to coaches, I want you on the Gill 1918 Project. It's super simple. Just hit me up on Twitter, email, text. It's all in the show notes below that you're watching right here. So appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, as always, very humbled, and join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.